Like many others, when Russell T Davies announced that he was going to return to Doctor Who, I was very excited. My expectations shot through the roof. As his episodes started coming out, I was developing an interesting theory, which then kind of turned into an interpretation, and now I don't even know what it is. As the series ended, I think now it's probably just my wishful thinking, my expectations being really high, and my own, perhaps overcomplicated interpretation of the show. I'm not disappointed just yet. Russell T Davies has proven himself numerous times that he's a very capable writer, so surely he's not stupid enough to make the same mistakes he made in the 2000s. Or is he? This is Wishful Thinking before the Doctor Who Christmas Special 2024. So firstly, let's take a look at the 60th anniversary specials. Prior to these specials even coming out, we knew that the Toymaker was set to make a return for the first time since the 1960s. Back in the 1960s, this Toymaker character, he was able to turn people into dolls, turn reality into a game itself. Basically, his whole thing is, I'm a god, I can manipulate things, I can turn this world into a big chess game with dolls and wooden soldiers, that kind of thing. Manipulating reality itself into one big game. Also announced was the return of David Tennant and Donna. The last time we saw Donna, she had her memory wiped, and if she ever remembered the 10th Doctor, her mind would burn and she would die. And so logically, you would conclude that perhaps the Toymaker is responsible for David Tennant's face coming back. He's manipulating reality into another one of his games, and this game is that Donna's gonna meet him and her mind will burn, and that'll be the whole story, that'll be the whole hook of the specials. That seems like a pretty logical synopsis given the information that we had prior. In the first episode of the 60th, before we even see the Toymaker, they just fix it and Donna can now see David Tennant without being a problem. We're back to normal as if nothing ever happened, and it's explained in such a nonsense way.
Rose? Too much power for one person, but you had a child, and the meta-crisis passed down. A shared inheritance.
Binary. Non-binary. Binary. It was always there, shining out of her.
And she chose her own name.
Oh, the shed. The shed was her memory of the TARDIS.
And what's really annoying is that it felt like the show was actually suggesting this as well. When Jodie Whittaker regenerated into David Tennant, the clothes regenerated as well, which is not usually what happens. That had only been done one other time, which was the first ever regeneration, so don't count that. Every time the Doctor regenerates, the costume will carry over to the next incarnation, and then they'll figure out something new from there.
Well, how about this?
Much better, Doctor. Now, if you've quite finished with your wardrobe...
I'll try again if you like.
No, let's settle for that, please. Now,
Time
Doctor...
we were off.
Off?
To visit the scene of the crime.
The thing is, there's been
Tell
another
me
robbery.
on the way, Brigadier. Tell me on the way. You must cultivate a sense of urgency.
So not surprisingly, people were saying, oh my god, his clothes have changed. It's the Toymaker. The Toymaker's changed in the regeneration. It's something to do with that. No, not that. And now it's been a whole year since these 60th anniversaries. The Toymaker had nothing to do with it really. It's all just a load of bullshit, and it was a waste of time thinking all these exciting ideas. Or so I thought. It was in Series 1 that this theory actually strengthened, but then ultimately just collapsed on itself. When Series 1 started, I was like, damn, this is interesting, you know? The show was taking a very self-aware direction. We had scenes of musical numbers, of different fourth wall breaks. So then I asked myself, is it possible the Toymaker is still involved in this? We saw that he wasn't properly defeated, so perhaps that last standoff in the giggle was purely just to end that episode, and perhaps the Toymaker still hasn't left, perhaps he's still manipulating reality, where we're getting all this stuff that makes no sense in the world of Doctor Who, like musical numbers and fourth wall breaks. That doesn't exist in Doctor Who, usually.
Wait a minute.
66 billion trillion different tunes out there, but...
No, but just wait. Can you hear that? Music.
So maybe he did have an impact on the generation, and maybe the Toymaker was still having an impact on the show now. And so thinking back to the Celestial Toymaker, where the Toymaker there was manipulating reality to turn things into toys, turn it into a toyland, and so now perhaps he's transforming reality to mimic the nature of a TV show. At this point in time, yes, this is wishful thinking, definitely. And it was when I saw the episodes actually recreating scenes that Russell T Davies had written himself and kind of butchering them that made me wonder, surely he wouldn't do that deliberately. Surely he wouldn't make a worse scene of something he's already done. That can't be what there is to it. So just for the sake of argument here, I want to create two definitions. When I say references, I mean callbacks to the old show, uses of iconography, just references, things that feel like other things but aren't actually the same. Recreations, however, are literally taking the essence of a scene and just doing it again, almost ripping it off, far more derivative than a reference. So in the context of this video, remember those two terms, references and recreations. When Russell T Davies was originally running the show, he often made references to old Doctor Who episodes, lots of callbacks to different iconography, and just using things that feel familiar.
What are you watching? It seems to be a rather interesting extraterrestrial life form. Only puppets, you know, for children.
Oh.
Have you seen these things? This planet's amazing. Television in their stomach. Now that is evolution.
And so why nowadays would he then decide to just do this badly, decide to just rip off scenes? Perhaps this is intentional. If the Toymaker is manipulating reality and trying to mimic a TV show, then it makes complete sense that these scenes would embody other scenes rather than reference them.
There's no signal. We're out of range. Just a bit.
Tell you what, a little bit of jiggery-pokery.
Is that a technical term, jiggery-pokery?
Yeah, I came first in jiggery-pokery. What about you? Can I see your phone?
Yes.
So, my sonic screwdriver can make the distance between you and Earth 19,000 years, or one phone call.
There you go.
Hello?
Mum?
What is it? What's wrong? What have I done now? Oh, this red top's falling to bits. You should get your money back. Go on. There must be something. You never phone in the middle of the day. What's so funny?
Nothing. You're right, though.
Yeah, why wouldn't I be?
What day is it?
Wednesday, all day. You got a hangover? Oh, I tell you what, put a quid in that lottery syndicate. I'll pay you back later.
Yeah, I was just calling because I might be late home.
Is there something wrong?
No, I'm fine. Top of the world.
Well, what is it now?
Mum?
Yes, Mum, obviously. You just ran out the door 10 seconds ago. Why are you phoning me? You went like the wind. Where are you going?
Yeah, yes, I will. I'll catch up with you in a minute. That was my mum on Christmas Eve on my birthday 10 minutes ago. That's the best signal ever. How much that cost?
I think that's amazing. You want to see the bill?
That was 5 billion years ago. So, she's dead now.
And interestingly, the first time this recreation method is used is right after the Toymaker's defeated. We get a shot of someone picking up that tooth, and it's a direct recreation of the death of the Master in the end of time. What that says to me then is the Toymaker's not dead, and he's going to continue having an effect on the series. So when you look at the combination of musical numbers, fourth wall breaks, and recreations, perhaps that is what that is. Because prior to that point, it was references, it was subtle parallels, like Midnight and Wild Blue Yonder. I wouldn't call that a recreation, I'd call that a reference. It feels familiar, but it's not derivative and completely ripping it off.
Now the only problem we've got is this doctor.
It's inside his head.
It's inside his head.
It killed the driver.
It killed the driver.
And the mechanic.
And the mechanic.
And now it wants us.
And now it wants us.
Said so. He's waited so long.
He's waited so long.
In the dark.
In the dark.
And the cold.
And the cold.
And the diamonds.
And the diamonds.
Until you came.
Until you came.
Body so hot.
Body so hot.
With blood.
With blood.
And pain.
Oh my God, make him stop. Someone make him stop.
But she's saying it.
And you can shut up.
But it's not him, it's her. He's just repeating.
Where did you come from? You're not part of the ship, are you? Did you come from outside?
We came from the nothing.
We are not things.
But you are not nothing.
Oh, I think you'll find we're quite something.
And just to be clear, I do acknowledge that this new series did also have these references, these callbacks to iconography.
Give away! Don't touch me! I'm a man!
What's that? What's happening?
That was it! In the picture, that was the claw! They're in control!
Take them out of here! They're condemned to the pits! No!
Macro!
Take them away!
They're in control!
I'm sorry, some of us get what?
Eaten.
What do you mean eaten?
Eaten alive. There are things out there in the real world, and I swear they are eating us alive.
Oh, for land's sake, Lindy, don't be so silly. Not even I would say something like that. Just because someone goes
But then why also rip things off? They feel like separate things to me. Then we have 73 Yards, my favourite episode of the new series. Okay, there is kind of a familiar feeling of turn left in this one, but aside from that, this episode has no title sequence, a fairly dreamy sort of structure to it, and I think tonally just feels a lot more realistic and separate from the other episodes. The episodes have a show feeling to it, a pantomime show feeling to it. I think the fact that this feels so tonally different from the rest of the series, and the fact that it's implied that this is set outside of Doctor Who with the lack of title sequence, perhaps that contrast is sort of there to show us the effect of the Toymaker. We're not seeing that pantomime bullshit anymore, we're seeing that real gritty Doctor Who again. We're outside of the Doctor Who show, we're into the real world, which I think just strengthens the idea that the Toymaker has a hand in the show's reality. There is another theory that I think is pretty interesting and very much worth considering. The last time Doctor Who had 4 wall breaks was also back in the 60s. You have the first Doctor wishing his audience a Merry Christmas to the camera.
Don't you remember the police station, Christmas? So it was, yes. Here's a toast, a happy Christmas to all of us. Same to you, Doctor. Sir, incidentally, a happy Christmas to all of you at home.
You have like intertitles and shit like that. And the last time that happened was when the monk was around. And if you haven't seen the original run, the monk is basically another time traveler who kind of causes havoc. And in that 4th wall breaking episode, he swears to the Doctor that he will get his revenge. So logically, you could kind of think, oh, he's going to come back, the monk. To be honest, I think that sounds a lot better than it being Sutek. Mainly just because of the execution of the finale, but also it makes more sense with the clues that we have. And speaking of the finale, that is where this theory really collapsed. I think up until this point I had already sort of accepted that this is probably more of an interpretation than a correct theory, but it was that last episode that really made me think, oh, I'm just connecting dots, aren't I? I'm just a crazy person, aren't I? But I trusted Russell T Davies as a writer, and so there was hope that that could be the case. But now that we've seen this shitty, underwhelming finale, given how great the setup before that finale was and how it just collapsed on itself, why would I now believe that all these 4th wall breaks and recreations and stuff are leading to anything? It's more likely just my wishful thinking. At the same time, we have to consider our options. Is it still possible? Now here, this is just where I reach for experimental purposes. I look at it in the lens and I just say, what if, and see what happens. And if we're doing that, could you argue that maybe this bad ending is actually still in the same vein as that meta-commentary and it's actually criticizing the show's history? Perhaps Russell T Davies is looking back on his underwhelming endings. For example, Last of the Time Lords. That episode had such a great setup with the fog watch and the reveal of the new Master, the Toclafane, the Master becoming the Prime Minister. Lots and lots of excellent setup in that story. And then the way that the whole thing is solved is that people pray for the Doctor, and through the hope of these people, the Doctor becomes a god and saves the day. Like, as if that makes any fucking sense. Absolutely infuriating. And maybe Russell T Davies realizes that, and maybe he's fucking with us all, and, you know, through this meta lens, he's giving us another shitty, underwhelming ending. It's a massive stretch, but it is possible. We know that Ruby is coming back. So maybe there's more to the parent stuff that we don't know about yet. Maybe it wasn't all an underwhelming mess. The ending of the series could have been another recreation of Doctor Who, a direct, oh look, we've done some stupid things in the past and the Toymaker is trying to embody the format of a show, so stupid things are going to continue to happen. Is this likely? Definitely not. Why would Russell T Davies take a risk like that when, you know, this is a reboot, we've got Disney's money behind it, he's trying to bring in new audiences? I find it unlikely that he would be so risky and also just have an idea that crazy. But on the other hand, Russell T Davies has proven himself to be an excellent writer. I think in the original Doctor Who run, obviously he was a great writer then, but the main criticism of that run, I think, was the shitty endings. And he has done many series in the meantime with great endings, with satisfying arcs. So it does really kind of confuse me as to why he would make the same mistakes again. Maybe it is because it's a TV show. This is wishful thinking. I'm very doubtful, but I will keep up my wishful thinking prior to the Doctor Who Christmas special of 2024.